With this box that I've created, I'm going to modify it a little bit now so that I can export it into Unity, make sure that I've got this solid box, and also make the second part that's going to be destructible. So before I go any further though, I'm going to save this box as original box. And now I'm going to save again as destructible box and click save. So I've got my original box. I can always open that and export it as a model again. This is going to be my destructible box. Now what I'm going to do here is I'll just turn edges back on and turn on profiles again. Okay, so there's my box. I'm also going to view it just as shaded, so I don't see those textures because it's going to be easier to work with now. Essentially all I'm going to do is I just want to get one side of my box and get rid of all the others so that you can see all the sides are pretty much the same. This means in what do you call it, that other program that we're using, Unity, there's probably going to be some overlap when we build our box up. But what I'm doing here, I think that this is it's a group. So I'll have to double click on that to edit the group. And I'm just going to draw lines here so I can kind of isolate this whole side by itself. I'll go over this side. And keep in mind there is more than one way to do this. Okay. Now I've got that front side isolated. I'm just going to erase everything else from behind here. It might take a few swipes to go over it because Sketchup can be a bit of a pain. And then I'll have to manually do all this part. Okay. And just checking to make sure that the front side doesn't have any weird bits there. Okay, so we're all good. Now I'd probably want to put a texture on this back side as well, so I'll grab that, hold down Options, select that, and paste that there. Okay, so there's my texture. I'll pop that texture in there. So it looks like it's all textured now. And I will grab that group, plugins, center on origin. So then I've got that model there. Now for this one I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, export 3D model. Now what I can do is, if I know where my Unity project folder is, I can actually export it directly into the Unity project folder. So I might just load up Unity and find where my Unity project folder is and do it that way. I think it's probably tap to break. And in the tap to break folder it's going to be assets. And I've made a separate folder here called models. Now what I'm going to do is, I'll make a new folder actually. New folder, Sketchup models. That could be outside here. So Sketchup models. And I'm going to make sure that export only the selected set is ticked. Export texture maps is ticked. Triangular all faces is ticked. Preserve component hierarchies, it doesn't matter. But I'll make sure it's ticked now. And export. Once I've done that, I'll also go back and export or open up my other one. There should be recent documents, original box, yes. And then file, export 3D model, original box. Make sure it doesn't have a space in it. Export. Now when I go into Unity, the first thing it will do, it's already started as soon as I clicked on it, is it'll start to import those models if I put them in the right place and my project was open. Now it was, and I'll just go and collapse all of this. I wish there was a way to collapse all. There we go. So now I've got this SketchUp models area here. What has imported is the models. So the models here have imported. Let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this by opening it and then closing it. You can see down here that I've got that model. It's actually imported. I can click it and rotate it and look at it. Scale factor should be 1. If you're working with FBX at any time and it comes in as a 0.01, you'll want to change it to 1. FBX always comes in at 0.01. Just while we're looking at this model, you'll need to make sure you tick generate colliders and also generate light map UVs. So you tick those and click apply. On original box, I'm going to do the same thing and click apply. Now my original box has some untextured parts to it. Now what I'm going to do here is, just disregarding this area for a bit, I'm going to find an area over here, and I need to build up an object that can be destructed or destroyed. So I'm going to drag in. First of all, I need to create a prefab object, and I'm going to call this destructible box part. On this destructible box part, I'm going to drag the destructible box model. Okay, so we've got a destructible box part. On this destructible box part, I am going to create, add a component, a physics component called a rigid body. That's going to allow it to interact with the world and collide with other things. Then I'm also going to add a physics component, a mesh collider. That's going to allow it to, and the mesh it's going to use is going to be box 1. I think that's the mesh it's going to use. We'll have to check that in a minute. It should have generated its own mesh when it came in, so I might have to have a look and see. There's a lot of junk stuff in here. I'm not sure which is which in some parts, so that should be okay. The other way to do it is to actually put it onto here, add component, physics 2D, mesh collider. That still has none there, so we'll just delete that from there. Okay, so back here, mesh collider, and make sure it's box 1. If this doesn't work, we'll try something different afterwards. But I'm going to bring this into the world, and that mesh collider is actually in the wrong place there. So I might need to change that a little bit. Let's just zoom in on it. Hit F, find the center of that object. Why it's not actually centered in the world? Have I done something wrong here? File, open, destructible box. Oh, that's centered there. Okay. So when that's come in, it's not quite centered. Oh, I'm in local. There we go. That is. So this destructible box part, that mesh collider should be centered on that object, but it's not. So what we might do is remove that mesh collider and go component, physics, box collider, and we'll have to set this up manually. Now, the cool thing about this is we don't really need to worry too much about what we're doing here. We just want to, we can use this little slider down here. So on the X, I'm going to slide it out that way. On the Y, I'm going to slide it in. And on the Z, I'm going to slide it up. All I want to do is make the collider outline that box. I should only need to do it once because this is going to be a prefab. I'll be able to use it again and again and again. The rigid body can stay how it is, and I'll click that. Now with this bit here, I'm going to make a copy of it because this is now a prefab. I don't need to change it. By the way, to switch between those different things there, it's W, E, and R, or hitting this at the top here. So W lets you move, E lets you rotate, R lets you scale. So what I'm going to do is make a duplicate of this, Control D, and I am going to copy it. Oops, Control D will make a duplicate, and then copy it 2 units by holding Control. So I can drag it and hold Control, it'll copy it 2 units across. I'm going to hit E and rotate it 90 degrees. If I hold Control or Shift, it'll make it easier to rotate. Then I'm going to make another copy, W, and move it 1 unit and 1 unit this way. E, rotate it 90 degrees. And then Control D, W, rotate it that way, extend it that way 2 units. E, rotate it that way. And then finally, W, Control D, move it up 1 unit, in 1 unit. E, rotate it so it's flat on top. Now you'll notice that this box looks a little bit different to my other box. It doesn't have a bottom, but that's okay. And what's going to happen is I am now going to create an empty game object. And I'm going to grab all of these destructible parts by holding Shift and drag them onto that game object. This is going to be called destructible box hole. And this I'm going to drag down to here, which is going to become a new prefab. Okay, so this prefab here has got 5 different prefabs in it. And I'll just drag that, I'll just leave it there for now. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to go game object, create other, plane, and put this plane underneath this box because we're going to test it to make sure the rigid bodies work. Then I'm going to grab the main camera, game object, align with view, hit play. Hopefully those boxes will now work. Okay, so that is a destructible box. So we can use the original box, which looks like this, and we will have to make a prefab for that. We can use that box and then replace it with this one. So let's make the prefab for the other box as well. So game object, down here, create prefab, original box hole, and drag the original box model onto that. On here we're going to need to add a component, and we may as well put it in the model so we can check it. So add a component, physics, and we'll add a box collider to it. And that box collider is probably quite small in the middle there, so we're going to need to make it a bit bigger so that it can be clicked on. So scale it out like that. It should come out from the center. And one thing I didn't do before was to click apply at the top here. Because I'm working with a prefab that's instanced in here, I need to click apply to make it apply back to this prefab, which now has the box collider. Same with this part here. You'll notice that this still has the mesh collider. So I'll just make sure I go into here and click destructible box part and click apply. And then back in here, destructible box part still has the mesh collider on it. That's weird. But I can probably delete this one now because it should be in here. So these are the prefabs there. So as long as you follow those instructions, you should be fine with that. If not, just ask for help. Unity, like I said, is not an easy interface to work with, which is why I hesitate to use it, but it can do some quite cool stuff. And working with 3D is quite fun as well. So you should have that. You can click play. You'll see that the box on the left just sits there. The box on the right will kind of explode, and it might do different things at different times. So we've got some awesome physics happening here. Make sure you save that. You shouldn't need to really save things a whole lot in Unity. It's only when you make changes to a scene, as we've done here. We've got a little test area over here for our scene. And what we'll do in the next video is get this working. So we'll replace the column with the box by duplicating this scene and making a new scene, kind of like a second level. What you'll want to do next, actually we'll leave that to the next video, just making some more scenery and things like that. Okay.